I wanted to speak just a little bit as an example about child sexual exploitation. And I know you guys have been hearing about trafficking and exploitation in that way. Um, World Vision works with children around the globe, and one of the most heart-wrenching and really horrific abuses that we have to deal with is when children are sexually abused or sexually exploited for money. And so that's one of the issues that we're trying to tackle in pretty much the majority of the countries where we're working, because it is a major problem. The estimates are that up to 2 million children around the globe are used in commercial sexual abuse, basically. So that could be everything from children being used in pornography to children being sold in prostitution. Maybe you've heard of the term commercial sex tourism. It's when people from rich countries will travel oftentimes to poor countries for the purpose, and once they're there, they'll sexually abuse a child, usually for money. Or maybe they'll trade like a place for the kid to stay if it's a homeless child or something like that. So, it's a horrific thing that we're trying to address, and we're trying to deal with it both through legal means, changing laws, helping police to enforce their laws, but also through prevention, helping children that might be vulnerable to this or at risk, and try to create protection around them so that they never are abused in this way. So I wanted to show you a really quick
I have a question.
clip. Yeah,
Is that legal in some countries?
Is it legal?
Yeah, in some
No,
countries.
I mean it's pretty much there's a universal UN convention on the rights of a child, which says that no child under 18 should ever be used in sexual exploitation, should never be paid for sex. Some laws, some national countries might have different rules about age of when a child can consent to sex, but pretty much that's the rule. That any child under 18 should never, it's illegal to ever use a child in a way that you pay for sex with a child under the age of 18. But enforcing those laws is the really, really hard thing to do. And fortunately, there's great laws like in the U.S. and UK and England. They've created stronger laws now where if a person from our country goes to another country like say Thailand or El Salvador and abuses a child in that way, they will go to jail in the United States because it's illegal for us too. And so it's about strengthening that and building up our ability to prosecute those people to better protect children too in other countries. Because the U.S. is, some estimates are up to 25% of the mostly men that go and abuse children in this way are from the United States. Yeah. So you can see right there, that's one way you guys can be an advocate. Raising awareness. Because when you think about how many thousands of men that must be in the United States, chances are you might run into someone who knows someone who could be that guy. So it's really important to raise awareness and talk about how this hurts children. You hear crazy myths, lies about how, when you go to these countries and the children are poor and you're paying them. And they don't stop and think about the abuse, that they're pedophiles, But when it's a 16-year-old girl and he's giving her money, people can get lost in those lies. So I think there is a work that we can do about raising awareness of the problem and making it known that that is never okay. And it happens here in the United States too. The average entry into prostitution, even in the U.S., is between 13 and 14 years old. So what is that, 8th grade? 8th grade. That's average entry into prostitution. So, any woman you see in prostitution in the United States, there's a good chance she was being abused as a child in prostitution. I want to show you is a story from Cambodia, where this girl that I got a chance to meet, what she's doing is she's part of these groups where we're training and helping kids to be advocates. So what's really cool is she's, I think, 16 or 17 now. She's training other younger kids about sexual exploitation, about trafficking, about how to be aware and protect themselves. So she's an advocate, and she's helping other kids to be advocates too. As I said, she's 17 now. she's this incredible young woman. She's little tiny too. She's about this tall and really small. She doesn't look like it, but Cambodian people are pretty small, and she's tiny. And she does this as an advocate in her own community. And you can see that even she is probably someone who normally could be vulnerable to sexual exploitation because her parents have died. She doesn't have a lot of money. Remember she talked about violence in the home makes kids run away. Like there's lots of reasons she could be vulnerable, but instead, because she's been made aware and she's had a chance to be empowered, really, she's now teaching other kids about it and helping them. And what we did with World Vision, we have these programs that are helping kids at village levels. And then in November last year, there was a big event in Brazil where all the governments of the world came together to try to address this issue of commercial sexual exploitation of children, stop this sexual abuse of kids. And a lot of decisions were made about what should be the priorities, how we should address this problem. But a really important piece of that meeting was we brought kids to talk about it too. Because we thought, we just knew that you can't talk about how to find solutions for kids' issues without kids being there and being able to have their voice, tell us what's going on, and have some ideas about solutions. So World Vision brought 13 children from every different continent of the world to come and share their ideas and their experiences to try to address this issue. So Narak was one of them. And that's an example of where local level advocacy at a village is then taken up to try to create change that affects the entire world. And this is just an example. This woman here, she works for the UN, and her job is to do research and advise governments through the UN about stopping the sale and the trafficking of children. So this was one of the girls, Ruthi, that we brought from Kenya, that was speaking to this woman who is in charge of the UN of stopping this trafficking of children. She's not the only person in charge, but this is her position at the UN. So you can see where actions at the level of a small town, a small village, people like you, can really have an impact on important leaders on a global level too. This, to me, was an amazing experience where we brought these kids to the World Congress. And in the end, all the governments agreed, and not just governments, people from nonprofit organizations, experts from universities who are experts on the issue. We all created a document at the end. And a lot of the stuff that World Vision was suggesting that actually came from kids ended up in that document that governments signed on and said that they would do. One of the things that we did for it is we had what we call focus group discussions, which is just people getting around like this, sitting around talking about the issues and coming up with ideas and recommendations. So we had focus group discussions with over 250 kids in different countries, 15 different countries, and some of their main ideas, I kind of tried to bring them all together to some main points. A lot of those main points ended up in the final version that all these governments agreed to. So, to me, that's huge success. The next step is, are the governments going to keep their promises? Are they going to do what they said they do? Which is why kids like Narak, need to continue to talk to government leaders, to talk to their communities, to make sure that those promises are kept. That's a really big piece of it.